right, it is Blair and Barker for a Thursday on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet and wherever you get your favorite podcast. The Jays have today off. They start their final home series, their final series of the year tomorrow against Kevin Barker's Miami Marlins. Against Barker's Marlins.
Nobody's Marlins.
Nobody's Marlins. David Sampson's former Marlins. But anyhow, we've got a lot to get to today. Jeff Nelson is the Marlins TV analyst. He's also a Yes Network analyst, so we'll talk to him about the Marlins, who aren't going to make the playoffs, and the Yankees. Who are in, but man, oh man, there's a lot of drama surrounding that team. CJ Nitkowski, host of Loud Outs on MLB Network Radio and Braves TV analyst, will join us as well to take a look at the Braves and their hectic weekend. And this is going to be a lot of fun in a few minutes. We're going to be joined by the Dodgers third base coach, Dino Ebel, who been a busy man this year. I mean, Shohei Ohtani's got 53 home runs, so it's basically 53 handshakes at third base. Interestingly as well, Dino Ebel was on the Los Angeles Angels coaching staff during Shohei Ohtani's rookie year. So he's seen him back then and he's seen him now. So it'll be great to get his insight on that, his insight on the Dodgers. He also, if you watch the home run derby, was the guy pitching to Teoscar Hernandez in the home run derby. Teoscar's got 31 homers and 94 RBI. That would go a long way to filling up those, 180 home runs the Jays need to find. But anyhow, we don't have to worry about that. I didn't say that. It is the final home game for the Oakland Athletics. We are watching it on MLB Network. Crazy George is back. I mean, there are people out there who have no idea what I'm talking about. Crazy George, this dude who walked around the stadium pounding on a drum. He also, people don't realize this, BC Lions.
Yeah.
He did it with the BC Lions as well. Anyhow, so far nobody's rioted in the game. We're watching that.
As far as we can see.
Haven't seen anybody taking chairs out yet, although that did happen yesterday. And allegedly,
well, they should.
Allegedly, well, they're using it. It's the thing that's odd about that is, I mean, John, the owner of the A's doesn't own the stadium. So you're not getting back at John Fisher by taking the chairs. It's the people who are going to be in there next year. So, I mean, I guess, go ahead, take the chairs, but it's no skin off John Fisher's ass, to put it bluntly. And apparently they're also running out of beer already in the second inning. So I don't know what that portends. Let's talk very quickly about last night's Jays game. A 6-1 win over the Boston Red Sox, eliminating the Red Sox from the playoff race, which is always nice to do. Kevin Gausman finishing the year strongly, hitting 97 again on the gun. And Kevin talked about this 30 and 2/3. He finishes the year with 30 and 2/3 innings between home runs, which is without home runs, which is pretty good. 3 years in a row, he's made 31 starts. And Alejandro Kirk continued his hot September. And Jonathan Clase, his first major league home run and a couple of singles as well in his first start as a leadoff hitter for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, it's about as a complete game as you can get last night, right? The bullpen came in. They did their job. They didn't, Little looked good. Swanson looked good.
Still some
Drake
shaky,
came in,
still
looked
some
good.
shaky defense. I like Ernie Clement. I'm not certain he's my shortstop.
Yeah, he's a fifth infielder.
Yeah.
Jeff, on a good team.
Well, he's a fifth infielder.
Not get crazy with, can't wait to see Ernie hitting ninth and playing third every day.
No, but
let's not get crazy.
No, but you know what happens is if you watch, the game does reveal things to you, and there are some players. The more you see them play, the more you realize why they're not starters.
Yeah, it depends on how you watch the game. I mean, the front offices nowadays watch the game a little differently than we do, sitting on our couch going, man, dude don't move real good side to side, doesn't have the strongest of arms. Probably can't play him at shortstop next year. It just sometimes doesn't, compute that way in certain front offices. So, yeah, you mentioned the Gausman thing. The only thing I think in the offseason that I would think he mentioned after the game last night, he wants to throw
more sinkers.
Yeah, look, I guess that's about getting quicker outs just because the swing and miss all the time's not there. He'll have a 10 strikeout game like he did against the Angels, and he'll go 6 or 7 starts where he ain't getting 5. So
yeah, I was going to say, let's be clear. The 10 strikeout game was an outlier this year.
It was. Well, I think that's his point about using the sinker more. It ain't really a sinker. It's a two-seamer. He's trying to get the ball off the barrel, get some quick outs to a right-handed hitter, which is the smart way to do it when you've thrown a lot. You're getting up there in age, and, you want to compete at the highest level. You want to try and help a team win a couple of baseball games to get to the playoffs. You do what you got to do. So I like that part of it. I just wonder what it'll come back and look like next year. I know the velocity's maintained that the last couple of starts, which is kind of nice. Last night was the first time where he wasn't afraid to elevate in when he was trying to get a punch out, he only had 3 of them. So, it's like the inning where he's got a runner on third and less than 2 outs, right? You need to punch out. How does he get it? That's, I think, the thing in the offseason, and I'm sure he'll work on trying to figure that out and be a little bit better that when he does need them. Probably, it's probably no more of that 11 strikeouts per 9. It's going to be somewhere in that 8 or 9 range. But it just seems to me like if this is the Kevin you're going to get, it's okay. I'm asking for a quality start. Give the lineup. Hopefully that's way better. A chance to have the big inning. Yep. You'll win more games than you lose, and you'll go where you want to go. So you just like the evolution of I'm getting older, strikeouts aren't there. How do I be efficient, quick outs, go deeper in games? I added 2-seamer. So makes total sense. Good for him. And it's not always the easiest conversations. I know I went through it when I was, at the back end of my career, thinking about how I was going to gain more bat speed and catch fastballs out front. It's not the easiest conversation to have with yourself. He's had it, obviously. He'll come back, and hopefully he'll be what everybody wants him to be.
Yeah. And again, the Jays 6-1 winners. They are now 74-85. They've got 3 games left against
rolls right off the
Marlins. The playoff races, of course, continuing the wild card races in particular. The Dodgers can clinch the NL West with the win tonight. Both Kansas City and Detroit have won today, and I believe they're now 2.5 up in the Minnesota Twins. Now, this is not an epic collapse, but the Minnesota Twins, if they don't make the playoffs, there's going to have to be some.
If I would have told you, if I'd have told you this beginning of the year, you'd have been, probably.
I
could buy into that.
No, if you told me that they had a playoff spot and were playing this poorly, it wouldn't have.
They've had injuries to key guys. Key guys have rushed back sooner than they probably should have. Correa's been non-existent even when he is playing. Like I think if a baseball fan was to tell you that instead of a Twins fan. You would go probably. That's realistic. I'm
not certain anybody.
They're a grinded out team. They have to have everything going the right way. They have to have other teams playing down a little bit, and then when you get other teams playing up,
I'm not certain.
This is sort of the way it looks. At least for me, anyway.
I'm not certain if you coupled that with Kansas City and Detroit would be ahead of them. I'm not certain how many people would have bought into that. But anyhow, there we are. And that is where the postseason picture is. The bottom line is the Twins have got to start winning. They've got to start winning games. It's very simple. We talked about the Dodgers. They are in a position to clinch the National League West. The series against San Diego has been, to me, it sounds very much felt like a playoff series from what we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. Great baseball.
They were fired up.
Yeah, they certainly were. So was Shohei Ohtani last night. Shohei Ohtani's got, obviously, you follow the game, 53 home runs, 56 stolen bases. Kevin, he's got 396 total bases, levels that we haven't seen for a while. Our next guest is probably one of the busiest men in baseball. He's the Dodgers' third base coach, and he's certainly busy when it comes to Shohei Ohtani because Dino Ebel, thanks for joining us. By my count, that's 53 handshakes, right? Basically, with Shohei Ohtani this year?
Exactly right, and hopefully a few more until this season's over.
Hey, when I say Shohei Ohtani to you, and you know him from when you were coach with the Angels and he was breaking in, but when I say Shohei Ohtani to you, Dino, what comes to mind?
The best player in the world, and I say that a lot because when he came over in 2018, I saw a guy that was hitting and pitching and, the first player ever doing this in, my generation. We know Babe Ruth did it, but to see him actually go through the routine every single day, and then he got hurt, couldn't pitch anymore, and he kind of lost the season. But just watching him through now from the other side, he came over here to the Dodgers, and I just saw this guy being the best player. And you know what? There's a ton of guys, Judge. You can name them all. but to pitch and hit, and now this year was going to be the year I felt coming into spring training. Like, he knew he wasn't going to pitch, so he was going to give all he had on the offensive end and stealing bases. And, it is what it is. He's putting it together. And in my eyes, next year when he starts to pitch and if he's healthy and goes through the full season, to me, he's the best player in the world. That's the first thing that comes up when somebody mentions it to me.
Dino, what's the biggest difference between him just hitting as a baseball player that you can see that's obvious to a person like yourself that's around him all the time?
The makeup of him and just, being around him every day and the physical body and the routine that he goes through. And obviously everybody knows he's a great hitter. And now, he's very confident in stealing bases and, gets great jumps, goes first to third, scores on a double from first and cuts the bases. And just being around him and just watching him prepare. And now he's throwing bullpens and he still maintains the mental toughness or the mindset of going up to the plate and helping us trying to win. So, as you guys were saying earlier, it's playoff atmosphere here last night, another big night for Shohei, driving in runs. And he's just a guy that wants to be in the moment. And, he wants to be in this. That's why he signed with the Dodgers, get a chance to play in the playoffs. And now he's already in it. It's playoff atmosphere here tonight as we end a 3-game series, head to Colorado. But he's enjoying every minute of it.
Dino, when he was trying to get to the 50-50 mark, did the coaching staff, including yourself, ever have conversations with him, saying it's okay, man, you're going to do it, you're a great player? Like, I wouldn't think that'd be the easiest thing to go through. It's a lot of pressure. Like, nobody's ever done that before. That's a pretty cool thing, and I'm sure there was a lot of pressure every night that he, may have went 0 for 4, which is rare, but there's those nights, right? Did you guys ever have conversations? Was it hard on him that you noticed?
No, not really. It's just like anything else. Kind of like if a pitcher's in a no-hitter and he's in the 7th inning, you kind of leave him alone. But, I think he's aware of what he was, trying to chase, being a first 50-50 guy. Team knows it. But I think as he got closer, even when we were on the road, it felt like we were at home. I mean, I said this last night. When he comes up to the plate, everybody in the stadium, if it's 56,000 people, it's quiet. When he gets ready to swing, they got their cameras on, their phones. They want to record every one of these things, and it goes from being loud and, the entertainment, it goes to being almost silent. And when he hit that ball last night off the fence in right field, this place went nuts. So, no, we just let him play. He knows. And I kind of jokingly looked at him when he hit the 50-50 in the dugout after kind of like in the 8th inning. I said 60-60. And he just looked at me with some strange eyes, but he was – I don't know. This guy sets his mind to do something. He's going to go out and do it.
Yeah. How has he changed from the guy you saw that first year?
Just more, obviously he's been in the league 6 years, knows the league, the travel. He speaks English. I mean, those are the things that I think he is more relaxed. He, conversations and hitters meeting, he talks, and in the dugout he shares his thoughts. So when we got him in 2018, he was still learning the language, and and now you look at him physically, he's I don't know exactly what he weighs, but he looks like he's got like 20 to 25 more pounds of muscle, and he's running faster. I mean, he just comes to the park every day and tries to get better, and his main goal is to win a World Series. So that's kind of like the Shohei I see.
This may be above your pay grade, but do you ever hear whispers of, man, it's a pretty good season? If he was only a hitter for the next 7 or 8 years or 9 years or however many it is, man, can you imagine the numbers he'd put up and what he would bring to the Dodgers? Any whispers of that, or no, it's not even ever a conversation?
No, I don't hear any of that. Like you said, that's not in my lane, and that's the guys for upstairs. But I know he wants to still pitch. He's going to give it another shot, and he's out here every day now throwing long toss. He gets his bullpens in, and again, it would be nuts if if he never pitched, and all of a sudden now he just concentrates on being an offensive guy, which he does every day anyhow. But if that ever happened, I would imagine he can do 60-60. That's how good this guy is.
Dino, I think back to a conversation we had with Joe Madden a couple of years ago, and he was talking about this on our show, and he was talking about Shohei. and we were talking about, okay, what would go into a team acquiring Shohei Ohtani? And he mentioned that, one of the things you have to have is you've got to have buy-in from other people on the team, because he's a unicorn. Yes, he's a good guy and all that, but he's different than a lot of other people. He's going to pitch and he's going to hit. This was back when he was doing both. Did the Dodgers did you as an organization have to do anything? I don't know what the word is, not special, but was there any point in this where you thought, guys are going to have to go out of their way a little more to make him comfortable?
I don't know personally how they, when they went through the negotiations or got him over here and he went as a free agent talking to different clubs. I don't know what those conversations were about, what players were involved with, other than you hear it, in the media. But no, I think everybody here is an organization, and the players wanted him here. They knew how good he was. They watched him, with the Angels for 6 years. They thought he can fit right in this part where he can lead off or hit second behind our guy with Mookie and Freeman and Smith, the top four, and Teo now is having a great year. No, I don't think anybody was like, oh, we got to do something different because we're getting him. Nope, not at all. This clubhouse of ours is really good. They're tight. The rookies feel comfortable here. So the veteran guys with Mookie, Clayton, and Freddie Freeman welcomed him in open arms. So it's been really a great addition.
Dino, how can this, you think, help the Dodgers going forward in the playoffs, playing playoff baseball in the regular season? It's rare. Dino, as you well know, Dodgers are normally, got that thing locked up and trying to figure out how to get everybody healthy and rested and all those things. But this is meaningful baseball, right? The Padres don't like the Dodgers. It just looks like from afar watching it on TV, right? They're going after each other. And I watched Kopech last night throwing a bazillion to Manny Machado. You can just tell it's heated there, which is good for baseball. How can this help the Dodgers going forward?
Oh, it's going to help us a lot. Like you said, usually we're planning already what we're going to do in the postseason, and now we're fighting to win the division, and we can stay playing, baseball, a meaningful baseball, because mentally, I think if that you're locked up mid-September, you're trying to get guys at bats, trying to get guys off their feet, trying to keep them healthy. Now it's a fight. So we always hear that, the team that gets hot towards the end, that's the team you got to look out for. Well, that's something that now we're going through, and we continue to play baseball. We got a chance to clinch tonight. We head to Colorado for 3. We can keep this thing going. So give some pitchers that some needed rest if we do win the division. That's the kind of mindset that's going on now, because you're right. Last night and night before, it is playoff atmosphere here playing against the San Diego Padres. They want to beat us and win the division. We want to win the division, so it's going to go right down to the wire.
Mm-hmm. Last question for you, Dina, before we let you run. Teoscar Hernandez, you got to pitch to him in the home run derby. He's a guy that, we've had on this show several times. Kevin has talked to him a great deal. Yep. We're very fond of him. He's having a hell of a year, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's kind of like the secret weapon, is that, he hits, 4 or 5 in the lineup, and, everybody's worried about the top 3, and here comes Teo quietly. He's got plus 30 homers. He's having a great year with us. Big RBI guy, big home runs. And what a guy. You guys know who he is. He's special for us, special in the clubhouse. Gets along with everybody. He's got a smile on his face every day he walks into the park. So I love the guy. The team loves him. So hopefully he can continue to do what he's doing and help us win this thing.
Dino, we're going to let you run. You've been very generous with your time. Congratulations on the playoff spot, and you got a chance to clinch tonight. Good luck with that, and good luck during the postseason. Thanks, you for
Dino.
doing this.
All right. Yep. Thank you so much for having me. Enjoy it.
Take care. It's Dino Ebel, Dodgers third base coach, and I told Kevin a little earlier, we were lucky to sort of be introduced to Dino because when Aaron Sanchez was with the Blue Jays, Dino's daughter had gone to school with Aaron Sanchez. And there's a backstory. Aaron Sanchez, when he was drafted, it was a particularly good draft year for California high school pitchers. And there were 3 of them who would always cross paths in different competitions and all this. So we had Dino on to talk about Aaron Sanchez. Then, of course, he was third base coach with the Angels. And A couple of times they've been in town, I've just gone down to the ballpark and said hi to him, and try to ensure that you have some sort of, not a relationship, but at least the guy. And then lo and behold, he's the third base coach for the Dodgers. And if you read about his baseball, he's had an amazing baseball career. I mean, he's done so much as a coach and been part of so many. I mean, he's been a coach with Mike Scioscia's staff, Joe Madden's staff, Dave Roberts, done an awful lot. But that's interesting. It is. You keep asking the question, and I wonder. There was an answer Dino gave. I don't know if you caught on to it, but he talked about Shohei Ohtani pitching, and he said he wants to give it another go.
Yep.
I wonder if sort of. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Dino, but I wonder if that go, if one, he gets hurt again, or two, it just doesn't. It doesn't end up to his satisfaction. I wonder if maybe that conversation about just playing only doesn't resurface again. Because, yeah, it's a huge contract. It's a lot of money. But, he's going to finish the year maybe with 55 home runs and 60 stolen bases. I mean, whatever he's being earned or whatever he's being paid, he's earning it as an offensive player. I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. I wonder if you pushed Shohei Ohtani against the wall and said, what do you think you can be as a pitcher? Like, what is the top end for you at this point? Because he's not 22 anymore. I kind of wonder where that would, would fit in.
I think worries of third Tommy John would be one. I think the other one would be, man, this is pretty easy. I mean, I could be a 50-50 guy. I'm doing this with, it's hard. But I don't make it look hard. What if I did this the rest of my career? I'd be breaking all kinds of records. I'd be the best offensive player on the planet. It'd have to be a conversation with the people around him that matter the most. Yeah. It's what if you get hurt? If you get hurt pitching.
Now you can't play in the field.
You
can't
be an outfielder. No, you can't hit. Well, I don't think he's going to play the outfield. Why would he?
All you're doing now, you've guaranteed that he's only going to be a DH.
Yeah. If I were them anyway, that's what he'd be. Like, he'd be the everyday DH just like he is now. But, it'd have to be a conversation. It would warrant at least you sitting down and being serious about what if this was to happen? And is it really worth it?
The thing that I remember Pat Gillick talking about years and years ago, and we're talking about the back-to-back World Series champions in Toronto and how they changed the roster year after year. There was turnover, and they got rid of some Hall of Fame guys. They got rid of some guys with great careers. And I remember Pat Gillick saying one time, there's kind of a freedom that comes when you win a championship. Mm-hmm. You got that in your hip pocket. It's not that you can do whatever you want, but people trust you more. Yeah. Look at the Raptors. Masai Ujiri's turned that NBA championship into pretty much a contract here. Yeah. Then the team hasn't really done much of anything in the last years, but nobody cares because he won a world championship. Uh-huh. I wonder if the Dodgers win the World Series, does that maybe, and Shohei has a good postseason, I wonder if that maybe sort of releases whatever pressure there is to make a decision on it and allows them to step back.
What if he comes back and stinks as a pitcher? He could. Yeah. I'm not saying he will, but he could.
It's
How would the Dodgers start the conversation? That'd be another thing, too, right? You're sort of leaving this up to Ohtani because of what you signed him for and why you signed him to come here. But it's still, how would you start the conversation? Would it be, hey, you're pretty good as a hitter. You do know that, right? And we really don't need you as a pitcher anymore.
No, I don't
know. It
is an interesting point. It is an interesting
I know what
point.
I'd do, but I don't say I'd make him hit, but I'd strongly suggest. That don't come around every day, and you do that the next 7 or 8 years, and you're my leadoff hitter.
That's why I said
you're the stone of my lineup. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I said I thought it was interesting when he said wants to give it another go. I wonder if that isn't, if they haven't at some point, at some level, whether it's with ownership or whatever, I wonder if they haven't had that discussion. What if? I would think when you sign the guy, you have to have that discussion because he wasn't going to pitch this year. So you had to have had that discussion at some level. What if? Anyway.
Have they ever had that conversation before? I mean, how would you have the conversation? Like, I don't know. You're bringing him there to do both.
I mean, but here's the thing, too. You know, you are bringing him here to do both, but
until he goes 55, 60.
He keeps having years like this, and you're bringing all that Japanese marketing money over. That's going to be here whether he pitches or hits. If he just hits, that money's coming over.
Yeah,
but it's an interesting.
It's not about the money. It's about seeing the player every day for the next 7 or 8 years in a row. That's the thing, right?
Anyhow, it was a great interview. It was really good.
Cool
CJ Nitkowski is host of Loud Outs on MLB Network Radio. He's also the Braves TV analyst. Of course, you know by now that the Braves and Mets had their series postponed. They're going to be playing a doubleheader on Monday, but there's a big but here. According to Joel Sherman of the New York Post, if the game only matters for seeding, the commissioner's office, and I don't know what they would do, whether they would look at common opponents or records between the two. If it's just a matter of seeding, they may not play the game. It's an interesting dilemma. And if you're the Atlanta Braves, you just shake, you're going, well, what? Yeah, of course. Why not? Everything else has happened this year. Why doesn't this happen? CJ Nitkowski joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan at Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan at Sportsnet. Jeff Nelson will join us in a few, at the top of the hour, actually. He's the Miami Marlins TV analyst, yes, network analyst. We'll also talk a little bit about Shai Davidi's sit-down with John Schneider, the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, who it seems is going to be the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025. I'm not certain that comes as a surprise, but Shai's interview with John Schneider is on sportsnet.ca if you want to give it a look. And Kevin and I have some thoughts on that, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. Well, you probably know by now, if you're a baseball fan, that weather has sometimes happens at this time of the season. Weather has really kind of interrupted or interfered with Major League Baseball's best laid plans when it comes to the National League Wild Card Series, the Braves and Mets. The games are postponed, and there is a chance now that the teams could need to play a doubleheader on Monday, although there seems to be some confusion as to whether or not the doubleheader will be played, if it's just for seeding or whatever the issue is. Here's the thing. We're going to be joined. We'll bring in right now CJ Nitkowski, host of Loud Outs on MLB Network Radio and also Braves TV analyst. And here's the thing, CJ, thanks for joining us. I mean, if you're the Braves, you're probably just looking at this and going, yeah, why not? I mean, it's everything else has happened. Why wouldn't weather end up having a significant role in things? This is just another twist in just an odd year, isn't it?
Yeah, frustrating year because of the major injuries that they've had. Spencer Strider, Ronald Acuna Jr. right off the top were huge ones. They lost Sean Murphy for a couple of months. They lost Ozzy Albies a couple of times. He's back now. Austin Riley is done for the year. It's just been kind of one after another, yet this team has still found a way to contend. They did really well with bringing in some guys off waivers, like Ramon Laureano and Giovanni Urshela have been great in filling in, and that's how they still even find themselves, in contention. Why not go ahead and add the absolute chaos of what could be a potential doubleheader on what's supposed to be the final day headed into the postseason. But the Braves are also playing from behind. They kind of need a little bit of help here, or they're going to have those head-to-head games with the Mets on Monday that could have pretty substantial meaning.
CJ, how do they handle the pitching?
Well, it's funny. We were speculating about it yesterday, and speculation is so often was not accurate. It was interesting because, first of all, they lined up the top three guys to pitch against the Mets in Schwellenbach, Sale, and Max Fried. And that was going to be the 3 games against the Mets, and they made some adjustments to do that, including pushing Charlie Morton back. They just announced that it'll actually be Max Fried tomorrow. And so Sale, who was supposed to pitch yesterday, is still TBD. They have not announced their Saturday and Sunday starters. And according to Mark Bowman at MLB.com, basically saying that the Braves are going to try to wait as long as they possibly can to use Chris Sale if they're facing any kind of elimination situation. The dicey part about that is that if you do make it to the postseason, even your Friday starter tomorrow would not be available until Game 2. If you have to play all 5 of these games, you don't have a starter and you make it, you don't have a starter for the first game of the postseason. That is going to be certainly not an ideal situation. You're not bringing anybody back on short rest. So obviously you got to get there first, and that's the way you play it. Chris Sale's velocity was down a little bit in his last start. He didn't seem too concerned about it. I do think there's part of that here with the Braves that they'll take every extra day they can get with him right now. And he is such a gamer and willing to do whatever the team wants him to do that he's not going to be one of these guys that's going to talk about his routine being disrupted. I mean, he is all about, what do you need? I'll do it. End of story. And he's very sincere about that. So that's really nice to have, especially from the very likely Cy Young Award winner for the first time in his career. But we'll see what they decide to do with guys like Spencer Schwellenbach, who a lot of people probably don't know about. He's been a really great emerging rookie for them. Did a really nice job against the Mets again in his last start to get them that win. He went 7 innings, gave up 1 run. Last time he faced him, he threw 7 shutout. Ronaldo Lopez is eligible to come back. He says he's ready to go. Obviously, it's been 15 days, so I don't know how much, from a starting standpoint, he can give you. But they are basically playing this game by game and making decisions what sounds like maybe the night before with each starter.
How did Matt Olson turn his season around?
He got on the fastball. The timing of his fastball on the fastballs was off. He was getting beat by a pretty good amount. It was surprising to see. And one of the things, kind of big picture with this offense, he showed so many guys coming off of career years that the reality was there's no way that's going to repeat itself, especially the monster year that Matt Olson had. But there was like 7 or 8 guys that were just having these huge seasons a year ago. But him in particular, there were some issues getting beat on the fastball. He made the corrections that he had to make mechanically to get on time. And then once you see him on time, all of a sudden he's hitting everything else, as you well know, right? You know a guy's swing is right when he's using the entire field. He's on time for the fastball, which gives him, I think, just a little bit more confidence to take a look at everything else, right? He's no longer cheating to try to get to velocity, and then he's all of a sudden hitting the off-speed stuff really well. So it was in a matter of an adjustment that, took a little while for him to get there, but he made it, and he's been absolutely on fire.
CJ, where do you think Ozzie Albies is right now in terms of percentage of not availability, but just is he 90%? Is he 100%? I don't know. At this time of year, is it possible for anybody to be 100%? But what are you seeing from him?
So he's only hitting right-handed right now.
Okay.
So that'll tell you a little bit about where the wrist is as a switch hitter, which is fine when he's facing lefties because he's been one of the best hitters against lefties in the history of our game. But as a switch hitter, obviously he's much more comfortable batting left-handed against right-handed pitching. Since he's been back, he has been swinging only right-handed, and he's faced a lot of right-handed pitchers. It was unfortunate the way the rainouts ended up working out because the Mets were throwing 2 lefties in the second and third game, the 2 games that got rained out. I'm sure he was very much looking forward to that. That's not going to happen now, at least in games 1 and 2 with the Kansas City Royals. I believe it's Singer, and then I can't remember if Reagan's is throwing game 2 or game 3, but he's only going to see 1 lefty. So from that standpoint, I think it tells you, I don't know what the number would be, but his wrist is not all the way there where he feels comfortable swinging left-handed. The defense has been good since he's been back. He's moving really well. He did hit a home run, a right-on-right home run the other day in Miami. So it's not as if it's a futile thing with him against right-handed pitching. He's been able to contribute. The swings have looked pretty good. I thought what was interesting about that is, my first thought is, okay, well, the big issue is going to be spin, right? Right-handed breaking balls moving away from you that you don't see. He actually has said it's the right-handed fastballs that are coming in on him, especially 2-seamers with some run that maybe present a little bit more of the challenge, or that's the thing he's got to get used to. But he's been good, and they've been comfortable enough to put him right back in the 2 spot. Even though he's only hitting right-handed, there was some thought, I think, of, will they drop him in the order, have him bat 6th or 7th, maybe a safer spot for him since he's right on right. But Brian Snitker has put him right back in the 2-hole, and it's worked.
CJ, what do you think the organization and Alex can learn from this season and going into next season, maybe be a little bit more prepared if something like this was to happen again?
Yeah, everybody wants depth, right? Depth is the big one. How you best prepare for that as a challenge. This team was spoiled last year in the sense that they were pretty much putting the same lineup out there consistently. There was no changes of guys that want to play every day. They put depth in place. They brought in a guy like Luis Guillermo as an example of being that guy, and they didn't need him early on. So they decided to let him go, and then eventually had to kind of spin a little bit. Whit Merrifield, another guy you guys are familiar with that they brought in as a piece off waivers that was also really helpful when Albies was down. I just don't know if you can ever anticipate the idea that you're going to lose your MVP in right field, that you're going to lose your third baseman, that you're going to lose your second baseman. It's like teams that end up losing multiple starting pitchers, like the Dodgers. Like, how prepared can you really be to lose an entire rotation during the year? So, yeah, depth is really important. I think everybody knows it now more than ever. But I don't know if Alex would have done much of anything different, quite honestly. I mean, he had the pieces in place. They had a couple of young starters that could certainly help out. But there's a reason why guys are backup guys. And that's because they're not everyday guys at the big league level. So there's always going to be some risk there. One of the things that didn't work out, I think, as well as everybody anticipated, was the platoon in left field. A late sign of Adam Duvall bringing in Jared Kelenic. That was supposed to be kind of a platoon situation and hoping he can get the most production out of those two. Didn't really happen. Neither one is playing that much right now. And Ramon Laureano, who, again, was a waiver claim from Cleveland, has absolutely dominated that position. Got up to a slow start, but he has been great since. And so I don't know. I don't know if there's much that you could have done differently. Because, again, if you're bringing in big-time backup players, chances are they're good enough to be starters somewhere else.
CJ, they make the playoffs. They don't go far. Is it a good season for the Braves?
Based on the injuries, yes. And the fans are pretty understanding of that. The thing that you're clinging to and hoping to right now is that they can ride this pitching the way they have all year. Again, the offense has not been the same offense it was a year ago, but the reason they're in the position they're in is because of the emergence of Chris Sale, which he's been way better than expected. Ronaldo Lopez, the bullpen has been really deep. This bullpen has been fantastic all year long. So I think there's the optimism that that's the way that you could get there. If it doesn't happen and you look back at the offense, and obviously the last 2 years they were bounced in the first round by the Philadelphia Phillies, if they were to make this wild card but then lose in the wild card round, sure, it'll be disappointing. But I think the objectivity of really looking at what this season has been, what this roster looks like right now, you got to be honest and say, man, you're doing it without your 20-game winner. You're doing it without your MVP, without your star third baseman. Catchers have been hurt and battling all year and have not been able to quite give you the production that you saw a year ago. I think if you're being fair, but making it to the postseason was a minor miracle. But you never know, man. Like what I saw last year in Texas, I watched a team limp in when I was calling games for the Rangers. I mean, absolutely limp into the postseason. I was like, they're done. Like, there's no way. And all they did was go 11-0 on the road and win a World Series in the postseason. It was crazy. So if you have good players, and obviously they did, and the Braves do as well, anything is possible. But they got to make it first. If they were to get bounced early, I think it'd be unfair to say, oh, what a huge disappointment based on what the personnel has been all year.
You mentioned the bullpen, and I was looking at the Braves bullpen at their breakdown month by month, which I understand can sometimes be a dangerous game. But they went from 260 in July to 470 in August, and now they're 307. What explained that August hiccup?
A couple of things here that I think when you look at the whole bullpen, part of it is like your back end guys, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, and we don't do this, but the idea of separating your bullpen, and when they weren't playing well, your secondary guy is scuffling a little bit. And that's going to lead to you have a couple of blow-up outings where you have a guy maybe have to eat a few innings and wear it a little bit. So I think we saw some of that. But as far as Raisel Iglesias, Joe Jimenez, Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee, who has really emerged big time with the loss of A.J. Minter for the season, right? That's another big arm that they lost for the year because of the hip issue with him. The top guys have been great, and they've been really consistent, I should say. Every once in a while, like you said, you're going to have an outing here or there. It's not going to go your way. They've had to make some replacements. They brought in John Brebbia, who ended up being a free agent, essentially off waivers. They traded for Luke Jackson, so they've needed some help. Again, kind of secondary 10, but the big guys have been really good. Raisel Iglesias had one bump in the road where he gave up 5 runs.
Yeah.
But, man, this dude has been unbelievable. Like 30-plus saves. I mentioned this the other day. 6 times he's gone 2 innings. And he's gladly going 2 innings. Like he's asking to be in there. He's making it difficult for Brian Snitker to take him out of games. Outside of Emmanuel Clase, who's absolutely crushing it in Cleveland, Raisel Iglesias has been the next best closer in the game, and he's already taken on a ton of innings. It's been fun to watch. He's been on this crazy streak lately of not giving up earned runs besides the one big one that he had. And that probably had a little contributor to do it as well. But at no point this year was there ever concern about the bullpen. Yeah, when you lost A.J. Minter, that hurt a little bit. But because of the depth, Aaron Bummer in there as well, you've always felt good about this bullpen.
It is amazing where a good bullpen can take you. We're living this in the Blue Jay land. Where bullpen is just one of the worst in baseball, and how bad it is to watch. And just how tough it is to get through everyday games. But I do want to ask, you brought up an interesting point about Texas, and now you're working with the Braves, so you lived the winning last year. CJ, explain to me why it's so hard to repeat.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the lateness of it, for sure. The absolute grind of what, turns out to be a 7-month season of games. And then, of course, you're out on your 6 weeks of spring training, so now it's 8.5 months of baseball, which is a lot. And, we haven't seen it, obviously, since the Yankees did it 3 years in a row. Bruce Bochy, when he was with San Fran, right, it was every other year, and the in-betweens did not go well. I think it's a big part of the conversations I've had with folks that have been through it of how do you manage your off-season when it gets started so much later, plus all of the stuff for the winning team, everything else that comes after, right? It's not like you win the World Series and you're done, right? There's all the celebrations and the fun events, and you're doing a little bit more. I think there's something to trying to catch your groove in the off season, and these off seasons now don't really exist in that sense, right? I mean, by the time the World Series is over, there's guys that didn't play in the postseason. They're already 2 weeks, 3 weeks into what they're doing in the off season. Right, as far as getting ready for the next year. So I think that's part of it as well. There's not nearly as much time off for these athletes as there once was when you and I were playing. And so now they're getting after it, and you're missing some of that time. And then what do you do when you get to spring training? I've talked to managers who've had these conversations with others who have done it, saying, well, we back this guy off a little bit, and we don't get him started till a little bit later in spring training. But then that doesn't always work either, because then the season doesn't get off to the start that you want it to. But I do think that, first of all, the runs are more often than not improbable when you think about, again, a team like the Rangers. And right now I love where the game's at because we have no juggernauts in the game. I couldn't tell you who's going to win the World Series this year, and I think that's a good thing.
Great point.
And then how you got there, right?
Yeah.
Think about how often, what usually happens when you get there and you win is there's a couple of guys that you can point to that had career years. There's a couple of arms that kind of stepped up that you weren't anticipating. And now you're asking them to do it again. And that's a difficult thing to repeat year in and year out.
Yeah, it was the Diamondbacks last year, too, not the Phillies you played, right? I mean, nothing against the Diamondbacks, but they weren't the Phillies.
Yeah,
I know the Phillies had that little tough stretch, but it wasn't the Phillies, right? I mean, that's a little easier road. Sometimes you got to have some luck, too, I think.
For sure. I mean, even getting there, like I said, when they lost the last day of the season last year, the Rangers, 1-0, all they had to do was win that game, and they're division champs, and they get 5 days off. And they lose 1-0. I called that game. I mean, the feeling of absolute just being sunk at that moment. And then they got to instead go home and get the 5 days off. They got to fly from Seattle to Tampa and play a road series. And I'm like, oh, this could be over real fast. But yet they found a way to do it. But you're right. And so they go through them. They go through Baltimore. That Astros series was unbelievable last year. I mean, that American League Championship Series with all the history that was there for both teams, but especially recently for the Rangers and losing to the Astros and watching them win, that thing was draining. That felt like the World Series. The World Series, I won't say it was easy because it wasn't, and Corey Seager's big home run in Game 1 completely changed the momentum there, but there was a lot there that had to drain these guys. But you're right. I mean, the Diamondbacks were a surprise team, and we'll see if they make it this year. Obviously, the Braves are hoping now that they don't, which would be the first time since, I believe, 2007 that both teams in the World Series did not make the postseason the next year.
Yeah.
CJ, you've been really
awesome
gracious
stuff
with your time. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah. Good luck. Have fun.
Yes, have fun.
All right. My pleasure. See you guys.
See you, man.
You too. That's CJ Nitkowski. He is the host of Loud Outs on MLB Network Radio and also the Braves TV analyst.
Yeah.
That's a great point about the Rangers last year. It just gets to what we've talked about just getting in, right? Just get in, however you get in. And the wild card and why it seems as if wild card teams have more success in baseball's postseason. And I really do think, and I remember talking to Jim Leland about this one time when covering the Tigers during the postseason. And, he talked about how when you do it on a day-to-day, and I don't think people who've gone through it as a player or a manager or coach really get it. But he said, when you've done something on a day-to-day basis, 3 days off sounds great. 4 days off sounds great because you can relax. But you're not used to doing that all year, except with the exception of the All-Star break. And what do you do during the All-Star break? Well, you go away. You maybe go home to your family. I don't know. Maybe you fly away for a 48-hour vacation someplace. But you can't do that at this time because you got to stay sharp because you're going in the playoffs. And I really do think that is the thing that separates baseball from every other sport is that sometimes it's good to get up and know, I got to play another game today, and we got to win today.
Yeah, I've never won a World Series. I don't know how it feels to try and do it the next year. Sometimes that sounds like an excuse to me.
No,
I
remember hearing guys with the Yankees talk about, I think it's and you know who else? Moises Alou, the year that the Marlins won. I think it's a thing. I think we underestimate how, it's a lot of extra baseball to win a World Series. And yeah, guys are in good shape and everything, but I do think that it interferes with your offseason. And CJ's right. I mean, you know what guys are like. How many guys go away when the season's over and don't do anything for a month? Not many guys. They're back doing stuff.
Look, CJ would know. He's talked to a bunch of people. He's been on obviously a field with a team winning it and having conversations with people like Bruce Bochy who have tried to do it a couple of years in a row. And, the season that he had in between the World Series that he's winning. So obviously CJ's getting that from people that's actually lived it. Again, I just think, for me anyway, as smart as these organizations are now, and they see what it takes for one team to win it, that's sort of the blueprint, right? We do that, and then we add to it. So that team that just won it has no chance of beating us again next year. The Astros do it all the time. How's the Astros been able to do it?
Yeah.
They don't have the same break everybody else got? No. So why is that? Like that again gets back to that. CJ is probably spot on.
But
if you're a fan on the outside looking in, but they're deep in it every year.
Yeah, but that's different.
Deep.
That's different than winning it every year.
Well, you're missing 6 or 7 days of it.
But you're talking about repeating as champions. That's different than being in it every year. That's different than being able to win a round or 2 rounds. It just is. I mean, you look at those Giants teams Bochy had. They didn't win it back to back. They won one year, missed the next year. Won the next year, missed the next year. Won the next year. I don't know if it's a blueprint because it's like if it was a blueprint thing, everybody would be trying to do what the Houston Astros do. And I just don't think you can.
Well, they can't do that anymore.
Well, you can't. But I mean, you just can't. The Jays, you have what you have. I'm not certain the Jays could do what the Rays do. I don't know if that's a good example because it's only one race, right? I mean, it's like the Brewers of the National League, the Rays of the American League, right? But pick any team, and you can say it's great to say you have a blueprint, but you can only you can't get rid of all your players every year. Yeah, I think, right? Too, you start digging in some organizations and some front offices, how complacent do they get when that comes to, we just won it. I mean, the Jays. Now what do we do? I mean, the Jays. Do we still step on the gas pedal, or what's happening here? Jays hired James Click. They've had James Click for 3 years. He was part of the Astros organization. You'd think he would have the blueprint. Shoot, he was the GM. You'd think he'd have built. So it's almost like you're telling me that winning a World Series has almost got everything to do with talent. Yeah, absolutely it does. And you're right. It also has to do with luck. Winning a championship has to do with luck. About who you don't play as much as about who you do play. I keep bringing up the Toronto Raptors. Now, Kawhi Leonard, that was a great trade. But LeBron was in the West. The Golden State Warriors had, Kevin Durant was one of the best players in the world. A couple of dudes got hurt, too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but you do have to have luck. And, yes, you have to put yourself in a position to take advantage of the luck. I get all that. Yeah. But I think that there's a real randomness to baseball because it's, you play it every day and the defense has possession of the ball however you want to word it. I'm sure there's a big cost, too, for ownership to try and win it year after year after year after year after year. Yeah. It's not the easiest thing to sell, right? Well, we just won it. And plus, it's human nature. I like to save my money. It's human nature. Sometimes people just get satisfied winning. There it is. Jeff Nelson is a Miami Marlins TV analyst. He's also a Yes Network analyst, so we can talk Marlins and Yankees with Jeff Nelson. We'll do that. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan on Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker for an off day. For the Blue Jays, they will start a 3-game series, the final series of the season tomorrow night at the Rogers Center against the Miami Marlins. Give you a little bit of give you an idea of what's ahead for us. We will be doing a 1-hour Blue Jays talk following Sunday's game. That'll be your chance to vent. Look ahead to next year. Again, that'll be following Sunday's game, a 1-hour Blue Jays talk. We will be on from 4 to 6 Eastern on Monday, as per usual. Tuesday, we will be on in our new time slot from 3 to 4. That's where we will be on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet 360 through the end of the postseason, however long that goes. So, and tomorrow, it's Friday. John Schneider will join us. We'll also be going to the back leg line tomorrow, 416-413-3959. So you can get some questions in or some thoughts for Kevin Barker in case you can't join us on Sunday. I think that's about it. I think Morosi's joining us tomorrow maybe as well.
There you go.
Yeah. And then that's it. Then that's it for the 2024 championship season. What? You're just looking at me like 20.
Well, you have to say it.
Well, you always used to call it the 2024 championship
That's
season.
the beginning of the season, not the end when
I
you
know.
finished 37 games under 500 and you're
not 37.
21 out of the first place.
As we mentioned, the Miami Marlins will be the Jays' opponent in this final series coming up. They are in Minnesota. Tonight, they've got a game against the Twins, whose wild card aspirations are they're clinging on by their fingertips. Jeff Nelson is a Miami Marlins TV analyst, and he's a Yes Network TV analyst. This is good, so we can talk to Jeff a little bit about the Marlins and then talk about the Yankees and whether or not we should read anything into the way the Yankees season is going. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Can you hear me? It's kind of like a bubble here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, great.
We can hear you.
Okay, great.
You got us?
A little bit. It's kind of a bad connection. It seems like I'm in a bubble.
Okay,
I'm talking to you guys.
You know
We'll
what?
call you back.
We'll call you back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice.
We'll get our staff on it right away.
Yep.
The Marlins, they are 58-100 against the Twins.
Rolls right off your tongue, don't it?
Yeah. You know, it's.
I don't even know where to start.
Well,
Like,
I mean, it seems to me it wasn't that long ago we were looking at their starting rotation, their young starting rotation when they had Pablo Lopez and all those guys were going, man, if they could just kind of piece it together and it's almost like poof. Now I know they had some injuries to their starting pitching, but I don't know where they go. I don't know where they go from here.
yeah, we talk about identity. You got to figure out what you would like your organization's identity to be.
Yeah.
Do they have one?
I don't know.
I think you'd have to start there. No, make a decision as a franchise of what you want your big league team to look like. Do they even know what that is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did move early this year to move out a lot of players.
Well, they do that about every year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an identity.
But this was really early.
I guess.
Yeah, I just keep getting back to the fact that at one point a lot of people looked at that starting pitching that they were rolling out, and people were salivating over it because they wanted to acquire the starting pitching.
Yeah,
I remember Sixto Sanchez as well. And secondly, people were saying, well, if they aren't going to trade the starting pitching, if they just make a couple of moves, it's like anything else. You get in the playoffs with decent pitching, and maybe you make a bit of.
There's
a
the COVID year kind of ruined it. They really didn't know where to go from there. And there.
Yeah, we are joined again by Jeff Nelson. Jeff, thanks very much for your patience. We greatly appreciate it. Hey, I mean, look, we talked about the Marlins. They are 58-100 going into tonight's game. Kevin made a point about even teams that aren't really good have kind of an identity that you can look at and you can say, okay, I can see with a little ad here, maybe this gets better, maybe that gets better. Are the Marlins at all, in your mind, close to even having some sort of foundational identity?
Well, if they can get some of their starters back, that's what they were really devastated by. Sandy Alcantara, he'll be healthy next year. You have Yuri Perez, the big, tall rookie that had Tommy John. He may come back at some point. He won't start the season, I don't think, but he'll come back. You have Luzardo.
You have Ryan Weathers. So their starting rotation can be really healthy, can be pretty good. I mean, maybe some of the deepest if they do well. Their bullpen's kind of not a shambles, but it's a lot of unsettled guys down there. I don't know how far they think they are. If they get some of their starters back, that will definitely help. I just look forward and see some of the teams that are in this division, and I don't know yet if they can compete, even with the Nationals. The Nationals are an up-and-coming team, and then you have the others the other three that have a great chance of making the playoffs.
Jeff, you might have just mentioned it about the pitching staff. I wonder how they get better at home. We talk about that a little bit with the Blue Jays, right? You're trying to figure out how to hit more home runs at home. You make some adjustments to your park. The ball doesn't fly in certain places. Players got to get used to that. It's just, what's their record? 30-51 at home. Now, obviously, you just mentioned it about the pitching staff and, some injuries that have taken place and, probably some underperforming. But how do they get better at home? I think that was sort of what Jeff and I was trying to say, is that identity of you got to play well in one spot. And then sort of the other spots just kind of fall in place. How do they get better at home, I think?
Yeah, when you're talking about identity, don't you think that, okay, their identity is right now is their pitching, or will be next year is their pitching. So you almost build around their pitching. You build a really good staff. And obviously you should really do a lot better at home because it is a pitcher's park. I mean, there's some splits with some of these guys on the pitching staff that have worse numbers at home than they do on road, which I wouldn't think that would happen. Now, as far as the power, you have Jake Berger. He'll probably get 30 home runs, which is a good accomplishment for him. But where else is the power going to come from? You have Connor Norby. I could probably see him maybe as a 20 to 25 homer guy. I think they've done a little bit better as far as, they struck out 16 times last night, but I think they have to be a lot less aggressive. I mean, they're a team that I think at the end of the year, if you look, Kevin, that they may play the fastest games out of any of the 30 teams. They're just swinging. They start swinging right out of the on-deck circle, and that part can't happen. They have to really be a little more patient, a little more selective, and that's just not this offense.
Jeff, when I watch the Yankees on TV and I think of myself this time of the year, man, what would it be like to be a Yankee in September trying to make it to the playoffs? Well, obviously, they're already in the playoffs, but, play playoff baseball in September and do it at home. And I think you're the perfect guy to ask this to. How is it being the Yankee this time of the year?
Well, I mean, it's for them right now. It's a little bit nail biting because they have a hard time against the East. They have a hard time against Houston and a hard time against Baltimore, and they're going to wind up facing maybe one of these two teams in the division series. But as far as once September hits, I was fortunate enough that we were able to clinch usually around the middle of September. And once that weather starts, you get the little crisp fall air, you start smelling the playoffs, and you start looking forward to October. And there's no other place. I mean, I had the opportunity to play 2 years in Seattle in the playoffs in 95 and 01. But in New York, there's no other place like it. The fans just go crazy. And now that the Mets are in it, I remember in 2000 when the Mets were in it, it's, who's fighting for the back page of back newspapers. Now it's like the internet or whatever. So it's exciting. I mean, the fans get excited about it. I mean, they show up in both the Citi Field and Yankee Stadium. They get great crowds, and they're just passionate New York fans.
It seems to me, looking at this Yankees team now, we saw Jason Dominguez in left field the other night. There's some of the base running mistakes Gleyber Torres is making. It almost makes me appreciate even more, Jeff, those Yankees teams that you were on, because I remember, I basically lived in the Bronx during the fall when I was a baseball writer because you guys were in it all the time. And I look back now and I think, my God, those teams, they had great talent and everything, but they played such clean, just really professional baseball. When you look back at those teams, do you think people appreciate not just how good they were, but how they went about their business?
They do, because they haven't won but one time, and that was in 2009. So they want to try to get back there. The fundamentals of the game is definitely lost. I mean, that's all around baseball. It's not just with the Yankees, not just with the Marlins. I think it's all around baseball. It was hammered in our heads in spring training. It was Groundhog Day, the drills that we did, and we did them every single day. As far as pitchers fielding practice, we knew exactly what to do with the ball, where we needed to be. When you release the ball, you have a place to be as a pitcher. Base running, the hitters and the position players ran the bases on drills when we had cutoff relays or rundowns, and it was just ingrained in you, and the instincts of the game was just ingrained in you back then. And if you made a mistake, it was not very often. Now you're seeing tons of mistakes. You're seeing rundowns that aren't made. The Gleyber Torres, there's been a number of occasions that he's run out of innings and just looked like, God, does he even know what he's doing? It's just the fundamentals of the game. It's sad because that's such an important part, and especially with winning teams, and it's just lost. And I think when you look back at baseball, not even just my years, but, go back to the 2000s. I mean, it was just ingrained in these guys, the instincts and the fundamentals of the game that I think is actually lost.
Jazz Chisholm has obviously made an impact on the Yankees since going over there. You saw him with the Marlins, and of course, again, and you see him now with the Yankees. Are you surprised at that? And could he be, in some ways, a bit of an X factor in the playoffs for this team?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good point. I think he was over in Miami, and he was instantly he's such a good personality and a great personality, and he was good for the Marlins as far as trying to build a fan base because he really connects with the young kids and the fans here. And to go to New York, and now all of a sudden now he's humbled. He's not the man. They talked to him a little bit about wearing his hat the right way and doing some things the Yankees way, and he fit in. And he's playing with guys that he was just in awe. When I was in Old Timers Day, and I got to talk to him a little bit. He was like a deer in headlights. He just loved it so much about being part of an organization and being part of a winning team. And he is. When he's healthy, he's an electric player. He can do it with his legs. Defensively, he's average, even in the outfield and third base. He's holding his own there. Offensively, he's got tons of power as long as he doesn't get too loopy with that swing. But I think it's really lengthened the lineup a little bit. And if he is on base, he's very dangerous. He's not afraid to steal bags. He's actually a smart base stealer. He knows what to look for in the pitchers and usually successful. But, yeah, I think he's been a big addition. And I think you're right. I think once the playoff comes, they're going to have to find someone in that lineup behind Aaron Judge to be able to come through, and maybe it's him.
Jeff, how much pressure you think Cole has on him just because of the way his seasons went? And I don't know about you, but I close my eyes and can't get the walk endeavors intentionally himself. I just can't get that out of my mind. And that sort of, for me, puts pressure on him to not only do well, but dominate in the playoffs. Any pressure on him, you think?
Yeah, I think there is. I agree. I've never seen that before either. Every single day you see something different nowadays. And I've never seen a pitcher. It usually comes from the bench, but the pitcher did it. Mm-hmm. And I know he's been hearing about it a number of times. But I do think, he's the ace. He was injured in the beginning of the year. Everybody, had some questions as far as is he healthy? Is he pitching healthy? He went 9 innings against the A's. I know it's the A's, but he did go 9 innings and he threw 99 pitches, so he looked really good. And this is a meaningful game when he pitches today against the Orioles because that means they can clinch. And it would give him confidence that, hey, he can do well against an American League East team, and that might be a team that he might have to face in the playoffs. Now, he's going to pitch today, and then he's going to have 8 or 9 days of rest before he sees October 5th. So that could hurt a little bit, and as far as being rusty in the starting rotation. But I agree with you. I think there is some pressure on him tonight. The Yankee fans are looking to at least try to clinch against the Orioles and take one and not get swept by them, and it's up to their ace to do it.
Last question before I let you run, Jeff. Can they figure it out in their bullpen in the postseason?
Weaver's done well, and he's accepted the 9th inning. You have no idea how these guys are going to respond in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You just don't know yet. I think having Cousins hurt, hopefully he can come back. He was a big deal in that bullpen late. He got some key outs. He has a really good slider. But down there, if you look at who has some playoff experience, not a whole lot of guys. And so you really don't know what you're going to get, because now the starters, you have a short leash. They're going to go into a short series against a hot team. And that's one thing. You're going to play 2 out of 3 this first wild card. So whoever they see is going to come in hot. And that's going to be a big deal for them. And you have a 7-game series, you're probably not worried. 5-game series, you might be a little bit worried. But you really don't know what you're going to get down there, because they really don't know how. You don't really have that experience.
Jeff, we're going to let you run. Great of you to give us your time today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy.
My pleasure. Great talking to you guys.
You too. Thanks.
Absolutely. Jeff Nelson, Miami Marlins TV analyst, Yes Network analyst. You want to talk about a guy who, was a beast for those Yankees teams. 4-time World Series champion.
Yeah, I always wanted to be. When I got a little older, that's what I always wanted to be a Yankee in September. I know it's a big deal in October, and it's a whole different animal. It's just how when they're in the hunt, they're fighting and clawing. You got to do that stuff in Yankee Stadium. Everybody's out to get you. You're getting the best out of everybody. I would have loved to have done that just to see what it's like.
My memories that are not so much with the new Yankee Stadium in the postseason as with the older Yankee Stadium in the postseason, but in October, it just sounds different. It smells different.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an energy. It just feels like you are at the most important place in the world at that particular time. Obviously, you're not.
Yeah, but
it just feels that way. Everything is big. Everything is just. It's really hard to explain, and that's why I've said people always used to say to me, God, don't you hate the Yankees? I said, first of all, I'm in making road trips to New York, so no, I don't hate the Yankees for that. But there was a way they went about doing things, man. That for a visiting writer or. It was just everything was kind of easy. It was almost like there was a routine. And I've always told people, whatever people, I understand a lot of people didn't like the Yankees, but you'd go in that clubhouse and there'd be Posada and Jeter and Williams and Mariano Rivera. And it was very, very professional.
I can just remember.
They were fun. They were fun to watch in the playoffs.
Yeah,
they knew that they were on the big stage.
I can just remember playing right field last day of the season for the Blue Jays and took an absolute beating from fans, just wearing me out for however many innings I played there until I chucked the ball up the backstop and got taken out of the game from Gibby. But Gibby would ask me I think he asked me the 4th or 5th inning, how's it going out there? And I just remember saying, man, I hate you. I was taking such a beating out there. It's just, and I can't imagine how that would be if you were, say, the Orioles going into that place. Now it might be different in this new stadium, and they're serving lobster behind home plate. It's just different than
it's not.
To
what
your
it
point,
used to be.
yeah. But it's still Yankee Stadium, and it's September, and Jeff's right. The colder it gets there, it just got a different feel to it.
Oh yeah,
boy,
it's a crisp cold.
It's something else.
And I remember an interview that Derek Jeter did. It was for some documentary, but he was asked about the difference between being a Yankee player in the postseason at Yankee Stadium and a visiting player at Yankee Stadium and what it must feel like. And, of course, obviously he was never a visiting player at Yankee Stadium. But he had this comment that I thought was really interesting. He said, when I'm in the field, it's almost like I'm on a stage. I don't see anything. I see lights. It's almost like I'm on a stage. I don't notice anything else. I don't know. He's talking about Yankee Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Don't notice the faces. Don't notice anything. None of that. It's just me, the field, lights.
Yeah.
And he said, I sometimes think that when other players come in the postseason, they spend a great, and he meant this. He wasn't criticizing him. I think they spend a fair amount of time kind of looking over their shoulders and looking around.
Everybody does.
Yeah. And I thought that might be the most, I haven't been in that situation, but that might be the most obvious explanation is just you feel different.
Place does something to you. Missing a fly ball in September in a game against the Orioles didn't matter. It's different when you're a Yankee in Yankee Stadium than it would be in any other park.
They
It's
were
something
all
else,
over
man.
Stroman live. You heard the fans were all over Stroman.
Like, it's just, you gotta. It's just it's a part of it that you have to prepare
and they
for.
haven't won. They haven't won for a long time.
They have no. Well, they're always in it, though. That's the point, right?
Yeah, but you know what? That's not good enough. They haven't won.
I understand that. They probably ain't gonna win it this year either. So it's just, again, it's just that whole thing of watching it on TV, being a part of it. Just you go to watch a game there, smelling the way. It's just the smells and the sounds and you have Judge, who's a behemoth human walking. It's just like it's not normal. It's awesome. That's why baseball's the best sport, because of that reason. It's just this time of the year and places like that. It's a whole different part of it. Like, it's something you have to prepare for as a player. I did playing right field. I've never done it, and for whatever reason, Gibby wanted to stick me out there. Maybe he didn't like me. Maybe that's what it was.
I probably figured you could handle it.
That's not why. Vernon Wells didn't want to play center the last day of the season. He wanted to kick his feet up and not do anything. So he looked down the line. It's like, take the hungover guy, put him in right. Yeah, because he had any chance of playing.
You can do that with Vernon.
Yeah, catch the one in the middle.
Vernon, by the way, to his credit, it was funny when he went to the Yankees to finish out his career. When he was with the Blue Jays, playing in center field at Yankee Stadium, he used to give it back to the fans.
Mm.
And the fans used to really like him. The fans would applaud him when at the end of the game when he'd come off and everything like that. And then, of course, he went back to New York. But, yeah, it is. You've got to – it's a different world. I think I told you about the time I took my daughter to a game at Yankee Stadium, and a couple of games. We had really good tickets for the first game, and then I said, let's just go sit in the bleachers just because I'd never sat in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. So we went out there, and I mean, this Yankee Stadium's different now because the bleacher seats aren't cheap. They're still expensive. But there was all stuff going on. I mean, there are fans who've been there forever in the bleachers. There's a guy pounding a pot with a spoon and all this. And Nick Swisher would come out in right field with handfuls of gum and throw it at people and all that. And there's a real culture to the right field bleachers. There really is.
That's why it's so awesome when they get their tails kicked. Oh, it's just the greatest.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it is.
I have a hard time hating the Yankees.
You do?
No, I don't hate the Yankees.
I don't know if it's hate. It's just fun to watch them.
I could never work up a dislike or hatred of the Yankees. Red Sox, don't like. Dodgers, don't like. Cubs, don't like. I'm trying to figure out other teams that I really don't like.
You could say one of the teams in the playoffs this year that is the Yankees. If not now, when? You have two behemoths in your lineup, and you have one of the best pitchers who have, in my mind, Cole, this year's like no other. He has to prove something going into this thing. It is like me against you. You got no chance. Jump on, boys, because of that pin and because of them two dudes in the middle of that order. If not now, when? Yeah. It's got that feel to it.
And I can tell you this. If the Yankees don't win a playoff series, everybody is going to look back at intentionally walking Devers, and they're going to go, that was the beginning of they are.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
are. That will be the narrative. That was a karmic moment for the New York Yankees. Intentionally walking. You heard Jeff, you could hear in Jeff Nelson's voice.
I'd never seen that before.
You know what I should have asked Nelly? How do you think Roger would have reacted to that? Do you think Roger would have gone?
Game's changed.
It has.
Whether we like it or not.
It has. It has changed.
I don't mind change. I sometimes think they should get out of people's way. You've gotten them here. Well, now enjoy what you're seeing.
Although having the pitcher
they were
flash the four
overthinking.
Fingers, that's
they
about
were
as far out of the way as you can possibly get.
Rant-free, buddy. Backstroking in there.
Shai Davidi had a sit-down with John Schneider, the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. It's on sportsnet.ca. Give it a read if you would. There's, they touch on everything. Are you going to be back next year? If you had a redo, what would you do? They talk about the issues with communication. They talk about all sorts of stuff. We'll talk about it a little bit when we come back. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590. What are you laughing at?
You know what I'm laughing at.
It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan at Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. It is an off day. It is Thursday. The Jays start their final series of the season tomorrow against the Miami Marlins, 7:07 at the Rogers Center. We'll be along tomorrow from 4 to 6 Eastern, as per usual. We will be doing Blue Jays talk following tomorrow's game. We'll be doing a special 1-hour Blue Jays talk on radio following Sunday's game. We're watching the A's and Rangers game right now, and somebody just threw a green flare onto the field in the 7th inning. They've been pretty well behaved here.
For the most part, it seems like.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And then as I continue my little discussion here, we will be going 3 to 4 on Tuesday. That's the plan right now. 3 to 4 on Sportsnet 590, the Fan, and Sportsnet 360. I mean, obviously, we'll be on from 4 to 6 Monday, but everything, depends on Blue Jays postseason media availabilities, when, Mark Shapiro or Ross Atkins speak and all that stuff. And I don't know if John Schneider will do an availability on Monday. I do know that we will talk to him tomorrow, so we'll be able to put a bow in the season. John sat down with Shai Davidi of Sportsnet for a wide-ranging conversation. The article's on sportsnet.ca. Very clear that this probably comes as no surprise to anybody, but it sure seems as if John Schneider and the Blue Jays front office, all of them are operating under the assumption they're going to be back next year.
Sounds like it.
Which, no surprise to us. I can't say that the fans would be. I think a lot of fans, and we'll talk about the article in a minute, but I think it was back in August that I made the observation, Kevin, and now they're throwing beer in the field, which is never a good idea. I made the observation that at some point when we did Blue Jays talk following games, the move went away from fire Schneider to focusing on Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro. There just seemed to be this move away from blaming the manager to putting the focus on the front office. And I think that became, I think fans are smart enough to look at, the way the bullpen was kind of left to wither and die. And, they were able to, look at the lineup and put 2 and 2 together. What'd you take away from the article, though? It was vintage John. It was very honest.
Yep.
Look, I understand people always expect more from managers in terms of year-end analysis than they get. People essentially want somebody to come on and say, you know what? I sucked. I stunk. I'm the worst manager in the history of the game. I'm the worst GM in the history of the game. Everything's bad. Nothing's good. We are horrible. Yeah, people don't do that. They don't. They just don't. You're laughing, but that's what people expect. Somebody always say, boy, you had John Schneider on and you didn't hold him to account. And what are you supposed to say? John, are you the worst manager in the history of the team? Be honest. You don't do that. And he's not, by the way. As I said, he's not. He doesn't make my top 2 of the worst.
I don't know where to go. What you just said. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of rambled on there, but I had a fair amount to say. I just didn't know how to say it. What'd you take away from the article?
I think the way they talk about players that they were counting on, I think they've come to the realization that they made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing. That's the eye-popping thing. Unrealistic expectations. He was talking about players, and we know what their names are. If you want me to say their names out loud, I could, but we all know who they are. Okay, who they were counting on, who they said, who they thought the core was, who we all knew. If you've been watching the Blue Jays, the actual core wasn't the people that they were counting on, certain names. So it does sound to me like they've had a little moment where it sounds to me like they were all in a room going, maybe we messed this up. Maybe we were counting on the wrong people in our model and, process with those guys just didn't pan out because maybe the talent's just not good enough there. So it did sound to me like he in so many words basically came out and said that. So that's the one thing I took from that. And the other parts of that is
this is I think an interesting John was asked by Shai, when it comes to roster decisions, off-season decisions, how much of a voice do you have, and do you need more of a voice, especially now that you've been in this job longer and have a better sense of what is needed? Schneider's answer was definitely have a voice. I don't think I need more of a voice. I think that we are pretty well aligned as to what our needs are and how we can best get there. But definitely I'm included. Pete Walker is included at a pretty high level. I don't know, comparatively speaking, how that compares to other organizations. But when we talk about players that are here and potential players that are going to come to this roster, I'm right in those conversations, both during the offseason and both during the season and in the offseason, trade deadline, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's questions like, if player X were to be here, how would he be used? Do you see this working out from a playing time standpoint, from a personality standpoint? They do a good job of incorporating my feel on not just what the player would do to our team, but what the person would do. And I'm just, John was also asked about, this was a good question. What do you feel are the biggest misconceptions among players, first off, and fans about how all that works, talking about the process of making decisions? The biggest misconception is over the past, let's call it 8 years, numbers have really taken a big part of this game, and it takes time for players to understand the why. It takes time for players that have been playing for a while to understand why teams use an opener, and you have to give them the data as to why. And when you get buy-in from the players, it's easier to be a little bit more open-minded or be a little bit more outside the box when it comes to your thinking. The misconception is players think a lot of teams strictly go by analytical numbers. And I think fans around the game think that somebody comes into my office every morning, hands me a lineup and says, go do this. That's not how we do it here. That's kind of where I think the game is. Whether you should bunt here or whether you should not bunt here, there are so many things that go into each decision. Through your experiences, you try to keep things in your mind that either worked out or did not work out and make the best decision going forward. I mean, that clearly, I think, is John Schneider wanting to get a message out there that, somebody in a khaki doesn't come into his office at 10 and says, here's your lineup. Have at it.
No, but I think they give suggestions on what the lineup should be, how much this guy should play, what position he should play, where he should hit in the lineup. It's suggested, and he makes up his own mind, and he makes the final call. I think that's sort of the point he's trying to get out a little bit. Again, I just think they need better talent. I mean, when you can say these numbers till you're blue in the face, it's actually the numbers don't lie. The numbers are going to help. It's the fact, can a player that's talented enough take that information and go, yeah, I like that part of it. I hate that part. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And actually walk up the part that he likes and apply it because he has enough talent to do it. You've said this for months. There's only one guy in that lineup consistently that other good teams would want. Until that changes, that's the point here is it's the evaluations have to be quicker. It's like the new guys here. Realistically going forward, how many of those you think should be a part of your future? And the way it sounds, one. Only one.
You don't think Spencer Horwitz is?
I think if he was playing second and would lead off, absolutely. But if he is your first baseman or your DH or your pinch
Will
hitter,
Wagner has got a spot next year.
How would that be a role for Horwitz? Yeah. Horwitz ain't a thumper. That's the point, right? You have to be realistic. You have to make your mind up quicker. You have to understand that what I've seen is true. Like, I'm using my two eyes, and then I can also add what I'm seeing to the numbers, and that will help out. That's the fact, right?
Here's the thing. And I've criticized the organization because I don't think they're fast enough in their feet. I mean, everything is a process with these guys. That's.
Oh, it's going to work. We stick with it.
Well, I mean,
it's going to work.
Nobody can be surprised by that because that's what they've been telling us all along. But what I'm getting at is, Spencer Horwitz, all these guys. I don't think we can sit here and say that they've been slow making a decision about them because they don't have to make a decision about. They didn't have to make a decision about Spencer Horwitz in September. They're not playing for anything.
Yeah, that's not my point. My point is you should have made your mind up already so going into the offseason he's a part of it or he ain't
maybe
part
they
of
have, but they still maybe they have made their mind up.
Proof's in the pudding. That's my point, right? It's It's not.
Somebody's got to play first base
for the five
right now. No, but I'm saying,
he's the fifth best hitter in baseball.
Well,
that's who's playing first.
No, I'm saying that I would be willing to bet right now that if you sat John Schneider down and said, okay, I'm going to give you a list of 7 names. Will Wagner, Horwitz, Clase, Loper. I mean, the usual names. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be back next year? Like, who do you think could be an everyday player for you next year? First of all, I think Ernie Clement's back on the bench.
Say it, legitimate chance of making the team.
I would be willing to bet that given what they told Will Wagner, given what everybody's been saying about Will Wagner, my guess is he's probably the guy. But I don't think, and I think they know that. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be playing Spencer Horwitz at first base or hitting him cleanup right now. He's not going to be your cleanup hitter. But I don't mind that they're doing it right now. Like, I don't know why you're getting upset that this is the lineup.
I'm not. I think that's what John is saying. Is like they've had that moment in a room together to where they've realized that what they're doing to find out who their everyday guys are sounds like that's not the process or the model that needs to take place. They need to adjust it and basically get better talent here.
Yeah, but
that's basically what it's. Who cares who's playing first today? I'm talking about to start the season next year.
That's
can't be saying. Kirk hitting clean. None of that. Like it's not good.
I think they know that, and I think they know that. I mean, I do. I just like I said, I've spent the last month not paying attention to the lineup, other than
we're not talking about the lineup.
Other than how many games Vladdy's been playing at third. I mean, I said this along. That's all I've been caring about. How many games Vladdy's playing at third? How does he look? And how has Kirk responded to it? The rest of the stuff, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what Spencer Horwitz does. Doesn't matter what Ernie Clement does. Doesn't matter where they're hitting. Doesn't matter where they're playing. Doesn't matter anything like that. Joey Loperfido's kind of disappointed me. I expected more.
Really?
I expected more. But I wouldn't sit there and say that this was, that was one of the things I was really intrigued in with September.
I think you'd be crazy by saying that because of what they gave up and how the opposing team that gave up Loperfido spoke about him. Like, that's a crazy comment. Like, you were expecting that dude might come in here and show you something, stealing bases, catching balls in left, and thumping some things that he could be a part of your that's my point. It's like right now, seeing him, that he's a work in progress. He needs to make a few adjustments to get to see the best out of Joey Loperfido. That's my point. I think that's what they've come to the realization of. At the evaluations need to be a little bit more quicker and be on point more. That, I think, is what John's talking about. They need better. They need better than what they got now if they think they can compete in the American League. Forget about baseball. In the American League. I ain't going to say the East. The American League. It's tough. You got to do things. It's not rocket science. That, I think, is what John was trying to say without getting himself in trouble. So it's, if you're married to Will Wagner playing second, fine. He just can't hit second. Like, you can't take away a bat if you're Will Wagner in the 8th or 9th inning from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And also, you watched last night when Core didn't walk Vladdy with a runner on third and less than 2 outs. You want to know why? Because the dude on the on-deck circle had a 17-game hitting streak and is hitting everything. Close your eyes if you're a Jays fan and think about getting that from the first day of the season till the end of it, how them numbers could look. That's the point. Try to get what you got to its fullest with what you can bring in here. It ain't rocket science. That is a prime example of it. Core's not dumb. He saw the same thing that we were seeing. Man, that little dude over there is hitting everything. Why would I walk this guy? I can get this guy out because he's trying too hard, and he knows how many hits he needs to get to 200. Everybody sees it. Don't think Core doesn't mention that to Vladdy before games? That's the point. It's not, again, this is You can actually just see it play out and go, man, wow, what if we could get, whoa. You get Bo back happy and you put the right people in front of Vladdy and 2 other dudes that you bring in here that know how to hit, that you don't have to do the things that you just read off that John's trying to tell everybody about the numbers and stats and what they're not doing. Yeah, you do that to people who need it. Not everybody needs that. There is some guys that see ball, hit ball, and are so good at it that they don't need you to walk up and tell them all that stuff. That is sort of where the Blue Jays are at, and especially what is in the East and how the Rays look, and then the Red Sox might spend money, a little bit more of it. What if you get Corbin Burns? I mean,
Well, the Red Sox are in a position where they can
absolutely
spend some money because they've got a lot of young players, and you know what young players are? Young players are cheap, so they can spend some money.
And they're
on pitching if
athletic
they
and they're good. Those are the 2 most important parts of that. And once they get good, you can pull the Rays thing.
Yeah.
Get rid of them. Trade them.
The thing that I think this month has shown that I didn't expect to see was just how good the Rays could be next year. And now this is recency bias because we've just seen the Rays and the Red Sox, but you also look at the Red Sox, who won 2 or 3 games against the Jays, with the Jays starting Kevin Gausman, and
a lot of that was the pen, though, right?
But, the pen.
Yeah.
But they didn't have Devers, and
I mean, if CJ had told you anything, if you were listening to that when he came on, it says, how does the Braves get where the Braves have gotten this year? Their bullpen. I know it's Olsen and Sale, like you've had to have veteran guys who've been there and done it before do it. But, man, when you can throw it over to a pen who shuts it down and you win the games you're supposed to win, I mean, it's right in front of them. I mean, it's one of them hard-to-hear stages I think that the Blue Jays are in. And I think you got to like that they're having a conversation and they've realized it. Maybe they're having the conversation out loud and it'll change and they'll get better in here and you'll see the best out of Bo and Vladdy. I just want to see if it's worked, if it'll work or not. Get a couple of dudes in here who can protect 2 other guys and see if it matters. You've tried everything else. The best 2 years that those 2 guys have had in my mind are the year that they had thumpers,
Oscar,
dudes.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You don't like him, go get him. And then that guy. And that's the way the American League East is supposed to look. I know they did it in a small park, but you still got to hit it. I played in minor league parks all the time. I never hit 40 homers. That's the fact, right? It's just maybe this is a good thing that they're having it out loud and they won't get mad at John for sharing a little bit of it. So John's pretty open about most of this stuff. He ain't gonna lie to you or make something up just to appease people. No.
Well, I think John has enough respect for
baseball
people who've been around the game for baseball that people can see.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen to him on our show. He's truthful. He'll say everything he needs to say about a player.
I don't think at this point, I don't think there's any deep, dark secrets as to why this team is in last place in the American League East. I think we can. I just go back to that stat Shy told us the other day about, and I know what you think about WAR, but
this is telling.
The stat is
until
telling.
It's that. It's like batting average.
Yeah, a 7-run or a 7-win difference in the bullpen is.
Notice
pretty remarkable.
How many khakis talk about batting average when it's under 200? You notice that? Hey, boy, they will rhyme that. It's the first thing out of their mouth because it matters then, right? Doesn't matter when it's above that.
John Schneider was asked about the contractual status of Guerrero and Bichette. Obviously, he said the same thing we know. They've both expressed their desire to be here for a long time. They both understand how the business works and how this game is played. I know how the organization views them, and it is in a very good light, obviously. I can guarantee you that in Ross Atkins' final availability of the year, after hopefully someone asks him why he didn't do anything to the bullpen when Garcia or when
Jimmy Garcia,
Romano and Garcia,
you're right,
at the same time, why they didn't do anything to the bullpen. I hope the other question is just why haven't you signed Vladdy and Bo, and what makes you think that you can get it done now. That's
a fair question. It's a fair question.
Questions fans want to know.
Yeah.
Those are questions fans
Now
want to know.
the Bo signing, you're going to have to. You're going to have to think about that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, however you want to ask it, you can separate it and say, if you don't want to even ask about Bo, say, why hasn't Vladdy been signed so far?
I think that is a
like what and what has happened that would give us any confidence that you have a chance of signing him this offseason? The other question I'd ask is, do you want to sign him?
I think you should go to this and ask these questions. I mean, I'm saying. Because those are great questions.
Probably be in here. People ask those questions. But that's what I think that's what, I mean, listen, we talk to the fans on Blue Jays Talk and on this show, and that's what they want to know.
And I hate to admit it, but you were right, I think, for the most part about if you want to get big-time free agents in here, it has to start with signing Vladdy.
Well,
it's that, right? Am I going to be the only guy on the island in 2 years, and this team trying to retool or rebuild, whatever phrase you want to use, without the big boy here? Yeah. It'll make it a little bit easier to start the conversation of, we've already taken care of that. He's signed, sealed, and delivered.
And
so you're next, big fella.
And I think that I know that it drives people. And I don't get why, but, I mean, people are the way they are, that, when they see Vladdy being friendly with other players, the team's in the last place, I wish Vladdy could show me. That's the way Vladdy is. And people in this game, players on other teams, genuinely like him.
Yeah.
And
no question.
There will be, if you're a free agent and you're looking to come here, I guarantee you the first question is going to be, what are you going to surround me with? And that's going to start with, what are your plans in terms of bringing Vladdy back?
I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about Vladdy. Personality-wise.
No.
Like, I hate
not
that.
personality. I mean, you get people that because he's
I'm not
happy
talking about fans. Talking about his peers.
No,
ever. Have you ever asked a player about, hey, what do you think of Vladdy? They're like, what? Who? Hate that guy.
No,
never heard. You've never heard that.
I've never heard anybody say anything other than he's a pro. He works hard.
He posts every day. That's all you need to know.
The only thing the only time I've ever heard anybody say anything sort of, and it certainly wasn't about his personality, but it was a couple of years ago. Remember when he was having Wilton Guerrero in here and blah, 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 and it was David Ortiz. He talked to David Ortiz. The only thing I had somebody not with this organization, but somebody who knew Vladdy said, Vladdy's just got too many. He's got too many voices in his head. He's got too many voices in his head.
Yeah, and he went through that little phase, too, about the conditioning part of it, right, to the optics of the way he's wearing his uniform. And, that's...
Anyhow, so we'll be joined by John Schneider tomorrow, and we'll dig a little deeper into those topics, the manager of the Blue Jays. And, again, it's an off day today.
Yeah.
The Jays get back at it tomorrow. The A's are leading 3-2 the bottom of the eighth inning. Nobody seems to have done anything dastardly yet there. A couple of flares thrown on the field, a couple of beer cans thrown.
Who has a flare at a game?
Soccer fan. Anyhow.
Rocks batteries when I played winter ball. That's what it was, AA batteries.
AA batteries,
Look out.
AA batteries. Darts.
Or bottle tops.
Darts.
Bottle tops.
English soccer, they used to throw darts at players. Long time ago. That's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.